everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tor and this is Anthropology. I hope you're well. This video is going to be unlike my previous videos in some way, but also similar to a message that I've been talking about on this channel since I created it. And it's something that is very close to my heart, and I often debated, well, since October 7th, I debated back and forth whether or not I should address this topic in any meaningful way on social media. I'm sure as a lot of people have, but it's gotten to a point where I feel like I need to use whatever small platform that I have on YouTube to at least spread some awareness or just to raise the topic with the community that I have. So I'm sure everybody's aware at this point, unless you're living under a rock or if you don't live on planet Earth, but there is an active, I don't even know, I want to call it a genocide, given that that's what I believe is taking place, but there's an active war happening in Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories, primarily Gaza and the occupied West Bank. And I'm like, I don't even know what to say that hasn't already been said, other than I'm calling publicly on my YouTube channel for a ceasefire. I don't even know if this will do anything. However, I believe if you have a voice, you should use your voice to talk about meaningful things, and the indiscriminate slaughter of children, women, men, animals, the complete destruction of the Gaza Strip, the militarization of people in the occupied West Bank. It's reached a point where, like, I'm physically sick about it. Like, it's disgusting to see the images coming out on social media, especially by local journalists in Gaza, Motaz Azeza, Bisan, Plestia when she was in Gaza. The images coming out of Gaza are truly some of the most horrific things that I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, we as people should not be exposed to seeing what we're seeing, and we are being gaslit in ways that are truly incomprehensible. Now, a lot of you may be wondering, I guess, why I feel compelled to talk about this topic other than just being a human being with a consciousness. My partner, Robin, as many of you know, we recently got engaged. Robin is Palestinian, so Robin is from the West Bank. He's from Bethlehem, which is not a Muslim city. It is a Christian city. It's the Christian city. We are in the month of December. It is Christmas time. Jesus was born where? In Bethlehem. So this conflict, while it was reignited on October 7th by Hamas's horrific attacks on Israeli citizens, which, before anyone comes for me, do you condemn Hamas? Yes, obviously I condemn Hamas, because Hamas would come for me too. But that is besides the point, where the Israeli aggression towards Palestinian civilians and the complete and utter destruction of all civil society within Gaza, as well as the escalation of arrests, if that's what we can call them, in the West Bank, the attacks on Syria, the attacks going on in Lebanon, the complete and utter refusal of the United States and the Western governments to call for a humanitarian ceasefire has left me gobsmacked in ways that I've never felt gobsmacked before. I think it is also interesting, in contrast, to compare this to what is going on in Ukraine and Russia. The Western response to that conflict has been markedly different than this one. And the conflicts, both of them could arguably have seemingly been going on for a very long time. Russia's interest in Ukraine is that it was formerly a part of Russia. That's their goal. They want to recreate the Soviet Union, historic Russia. And that's the same that's going on in Israel. And a lot of the Western media has been very silent about that. They've been basically saying history started on October 7th, when that is in fact not the case. There's an insane amount of documentation on this conflict, the Israel-Palestine question. So for people to feign ignorance at this point is just laughable, in my opinion. Obviously, there are so many conflicts going on and people cannot be well-versed in all of them. But this one is horrific beyond any levels that we've seen in modern history. The amount of children alone that have been killed in the past, what are we at, 66 days now, has been on a scale that's like unlike anything else in modern history. The amount of bombs that were dropped on Gaza, I don't even know anymore, the most densely populated place on the planet, because people cannot leave. People are forced to stay there because of the Israeli blockade since 2007. It's crazy. Like, I feel like I have no words for it, seeing the UN become a puppet show, basically. Completely defunct at this point. It has no power to do anything because of the United States and Israel's vested interest in keeping the Israeli state alive. I don't even understand what is happening, what we're witnessing as a society, and how we're all just meant to watch this go on. We're seeing genocide documented live on our phones, and we're all just meant to keep going on like nothing is happening. And it's created this intense amount of polarization where people are, you're one side or the other. There's like no humanitarian side anymore, it seems. And that's really sad to see what's been going on, and to see that the US continues to veto humanitarian ceasefires on its, basically using Israel as the 51st state, using terms like we and us and our people. It's very bizarre. Like, I've never seen anything like this. And it's mentioned in the name of the channel, obviously, anthropology, but I studied social science and anthropology for 7 years in university. So I don't want anyone coming for me saying I don't know what I'm talking about, because I do. And the colonialism that we're seeing in modern times, the fact that this happened over Thanksgiving weekend in Canada, where we had just celebrated Truth and Reconciliation, which is a new, I don't even want to call it a holiday because that's gross, but basically recognizing Canada's colonial past, trying to use truth and understand the truth of the history and reconcile with the Indigenous people here, and wearing shirts that says every child matters, because for those that are unfamiliar, the Canadian residential school system was a horrific state-sanctioned institutional school system where children of Indigenous backgrounds were taken forcefully from their families and forced to assimilate to British Western culture in Canada up until like the 80s. And so many children died, so many children were sexually abused, marked for death as soon as they left their parents, never to see their parents again, and then were buried in unmarked graves. And that is what Canada is built upon, and that is what Israel is currently being built upon. The unmarked and mass graves of Palestinian children. And it's just so confusing to see the Israeli government openly talk about ethnic cleansing and genocide as a component to their campaign, and then to see Western governments deny those claims just directly coming from the Israeli officials' mouths. It's very bizarre, and it just makes me really concerned for where we're headed as a world. All of this going on in addition to climate change action, and I don't understand how countries can pledge climate, basically trying to pledge their allegiance to reducing climate emissions, especially in the West, and then actively funding military operations. That's even what we can call them at this point. They're well beyond operation. Military catastrophes, which are the largest outputters of greenhouse gas emissions. Like, bombing residential buildings is not good for CO2 emissions. So I don't understand what game they're playing there. I don't really know where this video is going. I just wanted to add my voice to the growing chorus of people calling for a ceasefire. If you are not calling for a ceasefire, if you don't view anything wrong happening here, I don't know what to tell you. If you're looking for active resources to learn more about this situation and this unfolding genocide that we're seeing, because I think a lot of people are confused what a genocide actually is. A genocide is essentially the intent or the actions to create an atmosphere to destroy a people in part or in whole based on ethnic, religious, or a variety of other markers for a specific group of people. And nobody technically has to die in order for it to be labeled a genocide. The creation of the conditions for a set group of people to die is the creation of an atmosphere of genocide. And that's exactly what we're seeing happening since October 7th with the siege on the Gaza Strip, the blocking of humanitarian aid, the blocking of electricity, the blocking of clean water, the destruction of civil society and medical services, the destruction of religious institutions and like mosques and churches where people were hiding after their residential houses were bombed. It's just the most insane thing to me that this has become a debate around linguistics and like terminology. Like, is it a genocide or is it an ethnic cleansing? Technically, they're both the same thing. And it's like become a tone policing thing, and people are so scared to be labeled as anti-Semitic, but nobody is scared, it seems, to be labeled as a racist against Arabs or Islamophobic. Like, it just makes no sense to me. And there's a lot of good resources that I found that people can access. Abby Martin is an amazing American journalist. She's done quite a few documentaries and spoken to people in both Israel, the West Bank, and in Gaza. She filmed the documentary Gaza Fights for Freedom around the 2018 Great March of Return, which was a peaceful protest where Gazans walked up to the border between Gaza and Israel and they were shot at by Israeli snipers. So all of this is caught on video, so take a look. Also, she runs a YouTube channel called The Empire Files, talking about the American Empire. She was very, very critical of the Iraq War, which everybody should be. Also, local journalist from Gaza, Motaz Azeza. Obviously, I feel like everyone who is aware of this right now is following him on Instagram. Bassan as well, Plestia, and obviously controversial figures like Sean King. He's been very active. And I know there's like been a bit of back and forth of like Al Jazeera because they're funded by the Qatari government. However, they've been doing the most accurate reporting on what's happening for the Palestinians. Because if you look at the death toll, Israel's death toll has gone down from 1,400 to 1,200, whereas the Palestinian death toll continues to rise exponentially, it seems, because they can't even gather the accurate number of how many people have been killed. And also the West Bank, where people are being arrested, harassed by the illegal Israeli settlers, which under international law, they should not be there because this is an occupied territory. Although at this point, the occupation is not ending, it seems. At this point, it seems to be an annexation. The territory has been annexed by Israel. And there's just so many points that people are not talking about, especially I find in relation to the West Bank, where it's fully an apartheid system. There's two sets of governing laws. Palestinians are governed by martial or military law. It's the only country to try children, minors, in military courts and military systems, whereas the Israeli settlers, which are there illegally under international law, are given full Israeli citizenship and are tried under civil law if they break any type of law. Not even to mention the checkpoint system, which is completely demoralizing and humiliating. There's just so many pieces of this puzzle that are being left out by the Western media, I believe intentionally, in order to create and, serve their narrative and keeping people sympathetic towards what Israel is doing. However, I don't know, after the last UN veto from the United States, where they were literally the only country to veto a humanitarian ceasefire, and then the day after, Anthony Blinken emergency rushes 13 or 14,000 shells for the Israeli tanks to continue to bombard and kill people in Gaza. It's sick. It's like fully sick. And the fact that there are more people concerned about this is really concerning as well, because one day it's over there, and then the next day it could be over here. And if you're any type of visible minority or any type of minority in the West, you should be very cognizant and aware of what's going on, especially in the States, especially in America. So that was my video. If you disagree with anything I said, good for you. If not, please call for a ceasefire as well. There's a lot of things that people can do. You can call your reps, you can call your government, you can email your government, you can sign petitions. If you're in Canada, there are quite a few petitions. I'll link them down below. You can boycott. There's boycotts going on. Follow the BDS movement, the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement. I'm currently boycotting Starbucks. I did like Starbucks, but suing their union for posting in solidarity with Palestine, I think is disgusting. So they're done for me. I never ate McDonald's, but they're on the list as well. So there's quite a few companies that are on there, so feel free to check those out. I'll link them down below. And yeah, I feel like at this point, in order to have this not explode into World War III, which at this point, it seems like we're headed down that path, there needs to be some sort of ceasefire, and the occupation needs to end. There needs to be equal rights for Palestinians and Israelis, or else this conflict will continue to go on forever. That's my video. As I mentioned, I debated quite a bit about making this or not, but I figured if not now, when? And if not me, who? And if I'm going to have this YouTube platform, I might as well use it for something less legitimate instead of consumption. So that's my video. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you are a Zionist, or if you subscribe to the Zionist political ideology, please exit this channel, because I don't want to have any debates around that. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.